In today's presentation, we're going to take a look at measuring angles live. Last lesson, we looked at using virtual tools like a virtual protractor to measure and draw some angles. But this time, we're going to really measure some angles using a real protractor. And that way you'll be able to see it live. So if you need to do this yourself in person, you'll have a good idea of how to do this. So here's our first angle. And we really need to note that we have a vertex, and that was the vertex right there, V-E-R-T-E-X. And this is the baseline here. This line here, that would be your baseline. Okay, so those are so important when you're trying to measure angles. Now I've got a couple different protractors that I'll use today. This is the first one. And you really want to line up your vertex in this point here. And I can see my protractors reflecting a little bit. I'll try to remove the light. Here we go. So we're going to line up that vertex right in that little window. Sometimes you can see the line coming down and the line going across horizontally to make perpendicular lines. It's kind of like right in those crosshairs, right in there. So once you have the baseline lined up, you can look and notice that this baseline travels through 0. There it is, traveling through 0. So I like to start counting the measure of the angle at 0 by tens until we find out where that crosses. So in this case, we've got 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, and you can see over here that the other ray passes through at almost 105, but just before that, so I'm going to say that's a 104-degree angle. You can see it right there. And I'll take a moment to kind of point that out. Right through here. You can see that passes through right about 104 degrees, and that makes sense because if you look at your angle, we talked about obtuse angles, and definitely this angle looks to be obtuse. It's greater than 90 degrees. So once again, you line up the vertex through that little view window, and the baseline is lined up. See, there's this line going across horizontally across my protractor, and I'm going to line that up, and you'll see, like I said, that ray over here passes right through about 100. It's between 100 and 110. There would be 105 right in the middle. So let's go with 104 degrees. So this angle measures 104 degrees. There's the first one. And that would be obtuse. You're probably thinking, good for you. All right, so there was example 1. Now, we'll try something a little bit different. We have another angle, and I'm going to use another type of protractor. And I'm going to mark off my vertex here and scan for my baseline. I'm going to choose this as my baseline. So I'll be looking to line up this protractor, and it's flipped, so I'll flip it around. And you see on this protractor, again, there's a vertical line coming down and a horizontal line going across. And this point right here is where you want to line up the vertex. It's kind of like the crosshairs of this viewfinder right here. And we want to zero in on that vertex. I think we've got it. And the baseline, yep, it's going right along here. There's the baseline. So you say, okay, my baseline passes through 0 here. So I'm going to start counting with this 0. 0, 10, 20, and then, well, it's not quite 25 here, and it's definitely not 30. So I'm going to say that this is a 24-degree angle. Again, I lined up the baseline, got the vertex lined up. Boom! This ray shoots right through at about 24 24 degrees. So there you have 24 degrees as measured, when we measured that angle. And we used a different type of protractor that ran along the bottom of the protractor. And you can see how this line runs right on the bottom of the protractor. And that's where we would line it up, along that line. Much different than the original we used, where it has a line that's not at the bottom edge of the protractor. So you've got to be careful when you're using your protractor to find out where that line is and where to line up the vertex and the baseline. So 24 degrees, well, if an angle is between 0 and 90 degrees, so it has to be less than 90 degrees, that would make it an acute angle. So 24 degrees, acute. Very good. There we go. Now let's try another example. We've had obtuse, acute, and now we've got something a little bit different. I'm going to scan through. You really should be looking for that vertex and this baseline here. Now, the other angles that I measured had baselines that were running nice and horizontal across the page. You might have to rotate your protractor to match up with that baseline. So now I've got the vertex in the little crosshairs there, where the vertical and the horizontal lines meet. At that point, that's where you want the vertex to be. Baseline is right here, matched up pretty good. And now we can read where this ray passes through. My baseline passes through 0 here, and I can start reading from here. 0, 10, 20, 30, 40. Whoops, you got to be careful not to let it slip. I'm glad that happened, because it happens occasionally. You just have to readjust. So we've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. Well, it's not 80, and it's not to 75. I'm thinking 71, 72 degrees. So this would be a 72 degree angle. 72 degrees. 72 degrees. And now, I hope you're thinking that this angle has to be, well, one of the few that we've talked about. Right angle, acute, obtuse, or straight angle. And this one, since it's less than 90 degrees, is definitely acute. So there you have it. There's just a few examples using a couple different types of protractors on how to measure angles live. So thanks for checking out Mr. Marinek's EduBlog, and we'll see you again next time.